So today during his press conference, Donald Trump did something amazing. He played a video of basically calling out the media for downplaying the coronavirus, showing how he took swift early action, and then calling out his enemies, people like Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, for calling him racist and xenophobic for halting the flights from China into the United States. So this is that part. This is Maggie Haberman. She's the New York Times reporter. Go ahead and look through WikiLeaks if you want to see where her loyalties lie. But yeah, Trump is playing this to basically fight back against the media claim that he wasn't early in his response to the coronavirus. Against the spread of the virus. And CNN cut away. So CNN cut away from the President of the United States' own press conference to give this guy, Daniel Day, some random dude, Daniel Dale, giving Daniel Dale, let's pause it, giving Daniel Dale some nobody. It's just a CNN reporter. CNN cut away from the President of the United States' own press briefing to give some random dude in his bedroom a chance to fact check him on the fly. It's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting because the fact check that they wanted to really cut away and swiftly go with, they're claiming that Trump is lying because when Joe Biden called him xenophobic for his reaction to the coronavirus, Joe Biden didn't know at the time that Trump had just shut down travel to China. That's what they're claiming. They're claiming that even though on the same day that Joe Biden called him xenophobic, Trump had shut down travel to China. And even though the next couple days, Democrats repeated the claim, this nobody fact checker is proclaiming that Trump is lying. They're fact checking the president in real time, and they're jumping through hoops to try and do it. Let's actually listen to the fact check, and then we'll keep watching.
I think it's important to note that Biden never explicitly criticized those restrictions. What happened was around the same time the restrictions were announced in the afternoon of January 31st, Biden was giving a speech in Iowa in which he said he wanted the response to be led by science rather than Trump's, what he said was a record of xenophobia. Now, Biden's campaign says that he didn't even know at the time that Secretary of Health Alex Azar had announced just minutes prior
that there would
be those.
So Joe Biden, the fact check is that Joe Biden claims that when he called Trump xenophobic, he wasn't referring to the travel ban because he didn't even know about it at the time. I don't know what's worse, to get it so horribly wrong, to call the president xenophobic for trying to protect people from the spread of a virus, or to be so incompetent that you don't even know what's going on around you. I don't know what's the case. This is a bogus fact check because Joe Biden isn't the only person who claimed Donald Trump was xenophobic, and Joe Biden called Trump xenophobic in the days following that first address, right? So you can't claim that he didn't know about it the next day or the next day. Nancy Pelosi called him racist for closing the borders. Everyone in the Democratic Party was doing this. That was a talking point that circled through the DNC, and everyone was using it. So this pathetic fact check from this guy's bedroom, I mean, look at this is his big moment. He just got to interrupt the president of the United States to deliver a fact check in his bedroom, and he couldn't even get a better setup than this. We'll keep watching
restrictions. Now, I don't think the Trump inference is crazy given the timing, but it's important to note Biden did not flip-flop as Trump suggested.
Yes, he did.
He never made an explicit expression of support.
Oh my God!
I think it's also important to note, Wolf, that when the president claims that he was fast, he acted early on the virus.
Oh my God!
He constantly cites these travel restrictions on China. What his critics are pointing to is slowness in other important restrictions.
Oh yeah. All right, we're not going to give him the decency of letting him finish this fact check. So he's saying that Joe Biden didn't actually mean the travel restrictions, that in a speech about the coronavirus, he just happened to call Trump a racist and xenophobic, but it had nothing to do with the only action that had even remotely anything to do with the perceived xenophobia, right? Trump closing the borders, that's what they've always accused him of. You want to close the borders, you're xenophobic. You want to build a wall, you're xenophobic, right? That's what their claim is. So this argument that Joe Biden inserted xenophobia into a speech about the coronavirus and that it had nothing to do with closing the borders is just BS. It's BS. There's no way around it. Well, let's fast forward past this.
Incredible. Then we made it COVID, or to be exactly accurate, COVID-19. and which was a lot of work. We had to change the ductwork. We had to seal up certain areas. We had to put areas of rooftop things over the beds.
All right, let me.
And they're cutting away from the president again.
The president continues to strongly try to defend himself. Jim Acosta, I interrupted you before. Clearly, the president is so sensitive to the criticism he's been getting over these past few days. He's decided
CNN
to go on the offensive,
cut away from the president again to let Jim Acosta, Dear Diary Acosta, to give him a chance.
How sensitive he is to all the criticism.
This is absurd. Okay, so at this point, there's no way to even pretend anymore that CNN is a legitimate news organization, because to refuse to cover the President of the United States' own press briefing, to cut away to some nobody fact checker, right? To cut away to some nobody fact checker, and to have Jim Acosta, who is the White House correspondent, jump in, right? Jim Acosta is not there because of the coronavirus. They're only letting so many reporters into the actual briefings. So he wasn't rotated in. He's not in there right now. So he's out. To have him jump on screen, this is unheard of. CNN, not only are they fact checking the president with some nobody in his bedroom, but now they're cutting away a second time to give Jim Acosta a crack at the president. And they're leading into that by saying that he's clearly sensitive to being accused that he wasn't reacting fast enough. Of course, the president's sensitive to that. He was being impeached on the day that the first patient with coronavirus returned to the United States from China. That was January 15th. Do you know what also happened on that day? Nancy Pelosi handed out her ceremonial pens, her impeachment pens, as souvenirs. On the same day that the first coronavirus patient arrived in the United States, we didn't know about him yet, but on the day that he arrived in the United States from Wuhan, China, Nancy Pelosi was handing out souvenir pens after she signed the impeachment articles. On the same day that that patient arrived, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats held a photo shoot to walk the articles of impeachment from one side of the Capitol building to the other. Now they're trying to claim that Donald Trump was the one who was asleep at the wheel. These people paralyzed the government. They forced us through this impeachment sham. It's important to remember that as long as the president was being impeached, as long as the articles had reached the Senate was not allowed to do any other business. Once the Senate received those articles of impeachment, they were precluded from covering anything else until those articles were ruled on, until they either found the president guilty or not guilty. So by sending articles of impeachment to the Senate, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats guaranteed that nothing else would get done in Congress in the meantime until those articles were ruled on. So to say that Donald Trump is the one responsible for some kind of slow reaction, it's BS. It's complete BS. They're now just trying to circle back to use this politically. And for CNN to help them, listen, one thing that Donald Trump has done pretty well is use the Defense Production Act to force companies to manufacture the goods that the United States needs to fight back against the virus during this national emergency. And that's what the DPA does. It gives the president the power to force companies to produce the goods that are in the nation's vital interests, right? What I want to see is I want to see President Trump use the DPA to force these media companies to actually broadcast the briefings. I want him to declare that the briefings themselves are in the country's vital national security interests, because it is in the country's interests for the citizens to be well informed about what their government leaders are doing. I want him to use that to force CNN to actually air these briefings, because what CNN's doing here is disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful to cut away from the president of the United States to let some nobody in his bedroom fact check him on the fly. Disgraceful. To cut away from a press briefing to allow Jim Acosta, look at that punum. Look at that sad face. Jim Acosta doesn't get to sit in the briefing today. Jim Acosta, his name didn't get called. So instead of actually letting the American people see what the president of the United States is saying, CNN's cutting to sad old Jim Acosta so he can spew his own lies. He doesn't get to ask the president misleading questions, loaded questions today. So he's going to get the time instead. It's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. So I completely support President Trump doing something like forcing CNN to broadcast the briefings. There's an argument to be made. If Donald Trump can force a car manufacturer to change their entire tooling to produce ventilators because it's in the national interest, Donald Trump has every right to force a media company to broadcast in full his briefings, because again, that information is in the vital national interest. So let me know, are you as disgusted at this as I am? Do you think that this is as disgraceful as I think it is? Let me know in the comment section below. And please remember to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications. It really helps us as we try to grow the channel. Thanks.